All right. As you know, was it yesterday that the toilet rat made this big announcement that he had reached this tremendous trade deal with the UK, right? Oh, boy. It's just another con job on American workers. As Jake Johnson put it at Common Dreams, U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday unveiled the framework of a trade deal with the United Kingdom that was extremely light on details. Well, of course, despite being billed as, quote, a full and comprehensive agreement. Yeah, the big, beautiful budget that's coming soon. Critics describe the fanfare surrounding this announcement as a nothing more or less than a cynical photo op. That's all the toilet rat cares about. And he's getting some cooperation, it seems, from the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. Starmer touted the deal as, quote, historic, while he acknowledged that it's incomplete. What the fuck got into Keir Starmer? And the toilet rat insisted the deal is, quote, maxed out, though he told reporters in the Oval Office that, quote, the final deal details are being written up in the coming weeks, end quote. Where are the other 199 trade deals or the other 89? It's something. It seems to me it's hard for me to remember from one day to the next what the current fire hose of bullshit coming from the toilet rat really consists of. But anyway, in a statement from the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, he went on to praise this agreement while he couldn't tell reporters in the UK what the fuck the deal was. Well, meantime, the U.S. Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, I wonder if she ever worked on a farm. Anyway, she described the agreement as one, quote, in concept. In concept. We're working on it. And she was comparing what the toilet rat said, and his comments were widely derided when he was on the campaign trail, that he had something going on healthcare. He had, quote, concept of a plan. Oh, my God. So now the Agricultural Secretary, Brooke Rollins, says that the agreement is one in concept. Well, she'll probably be fired over the weekend now. The Global Trade Watch Director at Public Citizen, which is a positive, good organization, Public Citizen. Her name is Melinda St. Louis. She said yesterday that, quote, Trump may have enjoyed having his ego stroked by Starmer and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick fawning over him for closing a deal, one that is obviously not actually done, but his con on American workers continues, end quote. That was from the spokeswoman from Public Citizen. And she added this, Ms. St. Louis added this, quote, the American and British people need to see whatever text there is or is developed in ongoing talks, and no deal should be approved or go into effect without going through proper on-the-record public comment processes and congressional oversight. We need to know, she went on, for instance, when they claim to address non-tariff barriers, just what giveaways for big tech may be inserted on behalf of Elon Musk and Trump's other tech bro billionaire buddies, given that he waved around big tech's wish list when he announced the tariffs, end quote. Yeah, well, there is no, do you understand that? Of course you do. I should never ask the audience to this little podcast that question. Do you understand? Of course you understand. There is no there where it concerns this huge trade agreement between the U.S. and the U.K. It doesn't exist. Miss St. Louis added this, quote, with claims of dozens more deals in progress, Congress must act swiftly to demand transparency and accountability in any trade deals before Trump and his team sell off our country behind closed doors. Well, do you suppose the Christian terrorists in the House or the Senate are going to respond to what Melinda St. Louis, the Global Trade Watch director at Public Citizen, has just admonished them to do? No, of course not. Anyway, all right, let's get to the meat of it. According to summaries released by the Toilet Rat and the UK government, this bilateral trade framework, not agreement, framework, would leave in place the 10% tariff rate that Trump has applied to all imports to the U.S., but it does provide a targeted tariff relief for the British auto, steel, and aluminum industries. Wouldn't you like to know what the hell that is? Anyway, some spokesfreak for the Toilet Rat said, without providing any details, that the deal would, quote, significantly expand U.S. market access in the U.K. and create a $5 billion opportunity for new exports for U.S. farmers, ranchers, and producers. End quote. Really? Well, then show us this framework, because it's not a deal. Now, the UK, of course, is the first country to announce an agreement in principle with the Toilet Rat, since he unilaterally imposed all these tariffs on imports into the country last month. And he did that by invoking his standard operating ploy right now is to invoke a state of emergency regarding whatever subject he wants to fuck with. In this case, it was tariffs and trade. The fact is that the United States ran a trade surplus with the United Kingdom last year. We got more from them than they got from us. And experts are now questioning the extent to which the terms of this agreement would change the trade dynamic between the two countries. What the fuck, in other words, is he trying to do? We already have an advantage, a trade advantage over the UK. Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize-winning economist and former columnist in the New York Times, suggested, quote, at this point, the goal of Trump policy seems to be to goose the market for the next few days with no long-term plan, end quote. And, of course, that happened. The market being, of course, the stock market. Around the world, stocks rose in response to this announcement that there was an agreement that doesn't exist. Oh. Now, the director of the UK-based advocacy group, that means they look out for citizens of the UK. It's called Global Justice Now. Well, it's based in the United Kingdom, but it's not just focused on the UK. Anyway, this guy, Nick Dearden, said that the events yesterday were primarily, quote, about appeasing Trump, end quote. But he has warned that there's going to be some shit coming in the very near future about this. He said this, quote, while there are limited tariff reductions, we remain in a much worse position than we were 6 months ago. What's more, he added, Trump could impose new tariffs at any time because Prime Minister Starmer has proven to him that his threats work. Caving in to a bully is not something to be celebrated. Today's press conference, he went on, also fires the starting gun on a genuinely scary fuller trade deal, and there are strong indications our rights, our standards, and protections will be up for grabs in that larger agreement. he added this, Mr. Dearden added this, quote, unless we stand up to this deal, the British public will pay a very high price for Prime Minister Starmer's friendship with Donald Trump, end quote. It just never stops, does it? And I don't understand why Starmer, who he's part of the progressive part of the British government, isn't he? I don't know if he's part of the Liberal Party, although the Liberal Party and Labour Party. I think he's the head of the Labour Party, isn't he? Anyway, appeasing Trump is how this has been described, what Prime Minister Starmer did. In a blog post published ahead of the announcement yesterday, Mr. Dearden, the director of Global Justice Now, he warned that the new framework between the U.S. and UK could set the stage for a deal that locks the United Kingdom, quote, into policies that favor the unchecked growth of tech monopolies, which will include deregulated artificial intelligence, increased corporate access to National Health Service data, and restrictions on our ability to rein in Silicon Valley giants. Worse may be coming, he added, unless we stop treating trade negotiations as a matter of royal prerogative. We need a modern democratic process for international agreements, transparent, accountable, and inclusive. But Prime Minister Starmer has showed that such reform won't be gifted by those in power. Therefore, it must be demanded. Now, I am not fully aware, and I probably should be, as to what the fuck this Prime Minister of the UK is doing. I mean, by first appearances, to me anyway, he is participating in this charade organized and promoted by the toilet rat that the U.S. has signed this comprehensive, enormous, mutually beneficial trade agreement with the United Kingdom, which has not happened. So why is Starmer going along with it unless he is shitting in his depends about the possible consequences of publicly denying anything that the toilet rat has said? That's the only thing I can come up with. I mean, the fact that these so-called world leaders, with one or two real exceptions, the main one being Zelensky, that world leaders are just so fearful of Trump. The other one who's not afraid of him, of course, is the opposite from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and that is the dictator wannabe of Israel, Netanyahu. Netanyahu, who is about 7,000 times smarter than Trump, manipulates Trump's little mechanical ass like somebody running an organ grinder's monkey. I mean, it's just, between Netanyahu and Putin, Trump is just tossed back, and Xi, the leader of China, Trump is just knocked back and forth over the net like one of those little birdies in a badminton set. Is that what it's called, a birdie? I think it is. But they just keep batting him around while Netanyahu continues his genocide. Putin continues his criminal acts against Ukraine. And now Starmer, and Xi, the leader of China, continues to sit with that look on his face. It never seems to change. Have you noticed that about the Chinese dictator? He's got this kind of I don't know if it's a smile, a grimace, a sneer, or maybe just some Buddhist kind of peering into the near future or something. But Xi constantly has this look on his face like manipulating your president is like opening an oyster. It's just so simple. Oh, my God. I just occasionally, I don't know what, erupt from the madness of it all. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.